Hey everybody, it's Gregg Bissonette here. I'm honored to be the drummer in Ringo Starr and his all-star band. The other drummer, because the drummer is Ringo Starr, but I'm the other drummer with Ringo. But I've played with such groups like such as David Lee Roth, Electric Light Orchestra, James Taylor, Spinal Tap. It's great to be here with the National Drum League.
Thank you very much. And thank you very much for coming on and checking out this new thing we got going. One of the main purposes is to help the next generation with learning about drums. And I know you're very passionate about that. And also, of course, you started playing drums at a very young age. And can you take us back to getting the passion? I know you started playing drums on your father's drum set back in the day, but not just about playing, but also about like the amount of work it took to as far as the sacrifice, what sacrifices you maybe had when you were growing up?
I didn't sacrifice anything because I had musical parents, but musical parents that played on the weekends and had a real life. They had jobs. My dad was a bread salesman in Detroit. My mom worked for an insurance company as a secretary, and they had a life, man. They had a lot of friends and they entertained. We had the most amazing. I cannot think of anything negative to say that I had to sacrifice in my childhood because I played drums whenever I wanted to play drums, but most of the time I was out playing baseball and football and riding my bike and swimming and having a normal childhood. But I started jamming around on my dad's drums in the basement. We have basements back in Michigan. We have garage bands out here because they don't have basements in California. But I started jamming on my dad's drums, and my buddy Brian Walgrave played guitar. So we just played Outer Limits and Wipeout and Louie Louie with guitar and drums and no vocals. So Bissonette and Walgrave, we called our name the Bis-Wall-Grave Nets. We even had a bass drum logo, bzz, like a bumblebee, Bissonette, bzz, and a wall, a picture of a wall with the bricks, and then Bis-Wall, and then a grave like rest in peace, and then a net like you'd catch a butterfly with. Bis-Wall-Grave Nets. We were the Bis-Wall-Grave Nets. And I learned to play the most important thing that when I was a kid, being that I'm 61 almost in June and you're 45, you might not have had this test. But when I was a kid, they'd say, "What's your name?" "Gregg." "Okay. What do you do?" "I play drums." "Can you play blank?" "Yeah, play it for me." "What am I talking about, Jesse?" "What?"
Wipeout?
"Ah, yes." Wipeout. So Wipeout. If you could play Wipeout, you were in. So I didn't sacrifice anything. I remember once my mom always drove me to my lessons, and my teacher kind of winked at my mom and said, "Mrs. Bissonette, like we're going to get Gregg on this. We're going to have to stop the lessons." I went, "Why?" And he said, "Well, because he's not practicing those important books that I've given him to work on, like this one."
Okay.
Like this one that bored the heck out of me.
Yeah.
Jim Chapin, who was a dear friend of mine, Advanced Techniques for the Modern, 1946 Modern Drummer. And I'm in my basement. And all I wanted to do was practice rock beats. And then he said the other one, stick control, which was another like,
yeah.
You know.
Right.
But now I teach stick control and I say, well, take that rhythm. Really make these the first 6 exercises, the first 12 in stick control. Man, do they apply well to drum set. So, but I never really sacrificed anything. My parents never, ever, ever asked me to practice. It was more like, come on up and eat dinner, you know. But I'd practice when I'd want to. But what I did more than anything, Jesse, the kids these days, I never thought I'd be that guy, but I go all around the world doing seminars for Dixon and Sabian and Remo and Vic Firth and LP and DW pedals and direct sound headphones and Sensophonic in-ears. They all sponsor my clinics. Drummers are not playing, not just because of this stupid virus crap, but they're just not playing in the last 10, 20 years with other musicians. So, well, I'll listen to this groove on YouTube and I'll learn it and I'll do my cover and I'll post. Well, that's not them playing their own time. They're just following that track. You got to play with other musicians that have a heartbeat. And here's a general rule. Kids, if you play with other musicians that have a heartbeat, if they don't have a heartbeat, don't play with them.
Okay. But yes, it is. Obviously, it's pretty fun though to do the drumless recordings and then just play along with those as well too. But yes,
It's
nothing.
fun, but it's not why we started playing drums, you and I.
Absolutely.
We're a
Well,
couple old guys that started playing drums because we wanted to make music and play for the high school dance kids. But when Jesse and I were your age in high school, there were no DJs. Maybe there were when Jesse was a kid, but in high school, junior high, you had bands. And when you played drums in that band, man, the girls all thought you were cool.
that's right. That's right. Now, talking about younger generation, tell us about the Gregg Bissonette Drum School on Drum Channel.
Thank you, Jesse. Well, yeah, that's what it's called. If you go to my website, which has all been redone, greggbissonette.com, you can just click on my drum school. Or you can also Google Gregg Bissonette Drum School, or you can Google Drum Channel and Gregg Bissonette Drum School. But anyway, for the last 10 years, Don Lombardi, who owns the drum school, who owns the drum channel, and I have been filming videos of me teaching about vocabulary. That's the one word, Jesse. Vocabulary. Different beats and different fills in different styles. Because to me, I'm not the greatest drummer at any one style, but I think I'm good at almost all styles. And that's why I work a lot. I love playing all styles of music. I love reading music, and I love different, just like you'd want a salad for lunch or a steak for dinner, chicken the next day, Mexican food, Italian food, sushi. Well, you got to vary things up. At least I do, or I get bored. Playing one style, like playing jazz all the time, would drive me up a wall. My favorite kind of music is rock, pop rock. Bands like the Beatles, the Stones, Led Zeppelin, Jimi Hendrix, Chicago, Blood, Sweat, and Tears, the Foo Fighters, bands that Arctic Monkeys, bands that I love that have singers and stuff. But I love jazz. I love small group jazz, big band, Afro-Cuban, Brazilian, country, different styles of playing with brushes or playing odd times, double bass, prog, hip hop, Motown. But this school is about teaching you vocabulary, different beats and different fills in different styles of music. The drum school is not just for beginners. It is for beginners.
Sure.
It's not just for intermediate, but it's also for pros. There's a lot of pro drummer friends of mine that come over and jam, and they don't know anything about playing bebop. Or a lot of bebop pros don't know anything about playing. They couldn't sit in for Taylor Hawkins and play with a song with the Foo Fighters. So my school is about getting people from all levels of playing and all ages to have something there for each one of them. From learning different beats, classic beats and fills in every style you can imagine, to learning to read and chart out songs, to learning how to apply rudiments to drums, to another point that is overlooked by a lot of teachers, and that's that once you start playing with musicians, whether you're playing at your school dance, or you're playing on a cruise ship, or somebody's wedding, or you're playing at where the Dallas Mavericks and Mark Cuban, where those guys play. It's not Reunion Arena anymore. What's it
American Airlines now.
Of course, it's American Airlines. Yeah, everything's corporate. Dallas, DFW, American Airlines. There's 50,000 American Airlines gates at DFW. It's the connection point to everywhere in the world. Come to Dallas, DFW Airport, American Airlines, doing what we do best. So if you want to play the American Airlines place,
yeah,
it's all about getting along with people.
Yeah.
People don't realize this, but half of the pie isn't just playing drums. Half of the pie is how well do you get along with people? Do you lift people up? Do you compliment people? Do you make people feel good about playing with you? Or do you put people down? Do you try to criticize? Do you talk down to people? Are you grumpy? Do you complain? Don't complain, because by the grace of God, I've been able to make a living since I was 16 years old, playing professionally. And I'm going to be 61 in a few weeks in June. 61 years old. I've never worked at Starbucks. I never had a paper route. Nothing wrong with working at Starbucks. I'm a capitalist. I want to work. I don't want to glom off the government all the time. I'm a capitalist. I want to make money playing drums. I'll work at Starbucks. I'll dig ditches. I'll collect trash. I'll do anything I got to do to make a living and support my family. But you mean to tell me I can play drums and people are going to pay me to play in their band or to teach them to play drums? Thank you, God. I mean, I play drums and get paid to do what I would do for hobby anyway. So why would I complain? And I look at so many drummers that have lost big gigs because they shoot their mouth off and they moan and complain. And on a tour bus, they're the big pant load that's bringing everybody down. You got to lift people up. Find things to be positive about. Find things to compliment people on about. And remember, it's not the 2 hours you're on stage that's hard. That's the fun. It's the other 22 hours. But you know what? You're flying around the world on planes, usually in first class. You're having backstage food brought to you and you make out a rider about what you want. You go to these great hotels and hang out with people. I mean, that's not a lot of hard work, but people still find a hard time being positive. Sometimes they want to complain. Even if you're on the Vans Warped Tour and you're one of 100 different bands and there's 50 people smashed into your van and you got 4 people in a room, you're sleeping on the floor, you're still playing the drums. And even whether you make $10 a week or 10 grand a week, doesn't matter. You're playing the drums, so be positive. Lots of drummers miss that. They just think, wow, you know, everybody else is complaining. It seems like the hip thing to do. No, I've recommended drummers for gigs that are great drummers and they've lost gigs because they complain.
Yeah, it's definitely all about perspective, that's for sure. But also, there are certain people that have positive attitudes and certain people that have negative attitudes. And obviously, you have a very big positive attitude towards things and people and everything. And it shows too, not only in the your attitude, but also in the number of jobs you've been able to secure and how long running these are. And of course, just also your reputation you have throughout the drum industry and the music industry in general.
Well, thank you. I think being on time is important. Learning the music, loving all styles of music. You don't have to love all styles of vocals, like death metal, Cookie Monster vocals, not my jam, and super hardcore, you know, gangster rap, not my jam. But I love the drum beats and I love the drum parts. I love Thomas Hucker with Meshuggah on Bleed, the feet, you know, and I love Questlove's drumming stuff. I love all the drumming. I don't always love all the vocals, but the thing is, I try to take the best out of that. And people skills, remember, I'm kind of a people pleaser. My dad was a people pleaser. He likes making people happy. I enjoy at the end of a session, people go, great job, man. And you made us laugh. You had fun. Here's a check. And if the check clears, they're probably going to have you back because you made them feel good. You don't have to be the court jester juggling the balls in the clown suit, but try to make people laugh. Humor is important in the world. We got to laugh.
Awesome.